Hi, I'm Siddharth Kalur, and this is Thinking in Loud, a space where we slow down, reflect, and dive deeper into the thoughts that shape us. In this episode, I will explore the concept of a sense of purpose. I will do this in the context of university education. Since I am a professor at one of India's leading engineering institutes, IIT Bombay, I'll explore this thought from my personal point of view. In my job, I teach and mentor undergraduate and postgraduate students in electrical engineering. I also lead labs where we undertake research and develop many cutting edge technologies. And more recently, I started my journey as an entrepreneur, trying to take some of our innovations to market through our startup, Nirixense Technologies. I like to think of my job as a professional juggler, where I have to keep many balls up in the air, each one symbolizing a different role and a responsibility. So let's say one of them represents my role as a professor, where I have to mentor the next generation of engineers. Maybe another is my work as a researcher, and yet another, let's say, is my new role as an entrepreneur. Now, each of these roles has a lot of responsibilities, many different aspects. So, perhaps one ball is maybe not sufficient to symbolize each one of them. So, just like a juggler constantly has to innovate new tricks and keep the performance alive for their audience, I also find myself switching perspectives and having to adapt rapidly to stay on top. So there's a lot of constant motion in this job. There's a lot going on every day, and that sometimes drives this reflective pause where I wonder, what is the purpose of an institution like IIT Bombay? What is the purpose of university education? Is it teaching? Is it research? Or is it to promote innovation and entrepreneurship? Is it realistic to have an organization with multiple goals, or should there be one goal that drives everything? How do you get long term success? Mind you, IIT Bombay is not a new institute, so it has been doing things well in all these domains for a long time. But I would like to explore this thought more in the context of future. How do we see these things evolving, and how do they not conflict with each other? How can they harmonize instead? So, a good starting point for this discussion would be to consider the thoughts of Dr. Jonathan Haidt. He is the co author of this very popular book, Coddling of the American Mind. Maybe you have read this book. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. A lot of recordings of his talks on the same subject on YouTube, so please do check it out. The tagline of this book may sound quite sensational. It goes like this: how good intentions and bad ideas are setting up a generation for failure. So it sounds sensational, but the authors present a very rational discussion in support of their ideas. And I highly recommend you to check out one of Dr. Hyde's talks. So he and his co-author Greg Lukianoff, they argue that many problems on university campuses have their origins in what they call the three great untruths. And they argue that these three great untruths have become very prominent in education. So, what are these three great untruths? The first one says, what doesn't kill you makes you weaker. The next says, always trust your feelings. And the third one goes as, life is a battle between good people and evil people. And the authors argue that these great untruths contradict modern psychology as well as ancient wisdom from many cultures. So, coming back to our topic, I thought I'll include an excerpt from one of Haidt's talks on this subject, focusing mostly on this concept of telos or purpose from his speech at the Benson Center for Study of Western Civilization at the University of Colorado Boulder in October 2019. So let's hear that excerpt.
So I think it's really helpful, this ancient Greek concept of telos. Aristotle used this word a lot. It's really helpful to keep this in mind when we look at any institution. Think about what is its purpose, and then you can figure out, well, what are the norms that we should have so that this institution can achieve its purpose. So the telos of a knife is to cut, and so if someone says, I've got this really great knife, it doesn't cut anything, but it's a really great knife, you would say, well, wait, no, you've misunderstood what a knife is. And if somebody said, well, I have a friend who's a really amazing physician. She can't heal anybody, but she's a great, great doctor. You'd say, well, no, wait, no, you've misunderstood. And so what about a university? What makes a great university? What is the telos of a university? And what is the telos? It's right there on the crest of many of our top universities. Veritas, truth. A university's telos is to find truth and then pass it on along with habits of thinking that will allow students to find truth themselves after they leave the university. This at least is our conception of ourselves.
All right. So, what's the motto of IIT Bombay? Snanam Paramam Dhyayam. So, roughly translated as knowledge is the supreme goal. So, that is the motto now, and that has always been the motto of this institute all through its existence, right from the very first batch of students in 1958. So, if knowledge is indeed supreme, then maybe teaching, research, and entrepreneurship are not separate goals. Maybe they are not separate silos that fight for the same set of resources, but maybe they are different expressions of the same purpose. Teaching can help you spread knowledge. So I teach this course on electronics design where I try to promote a product engineering mindset through the course. Research expands the boundaries of knowledge. So in our research, we try to come up with innovative technologies. I focus on sensor design, sensor development for many applications, and we try to come up with innovative solutions. And entrepreneurship applies. such research to real world problems. So
Right.
the challenge is not in reconciling these different elements. We should not see them at conflict with each other, but to be successful, you have to find a balance, you have to find harmony so that they complement rather than compete. And each one has to fuel the other in a continuous cycle of learning, discovery, and impact. So, knowledge teaching should be about learning, research about discovery, and entrepreneurship about impact. But how do you do this meaningfully? So, let's maybe think in the context of a cricket team. You do not get a good team by filling it with the best batters from all over the world. Similarly, you don't get a good team by just filling it with the best bowlers from all over the world. You need to have a good balance. To have a good team, you need good batters, you need good bowlers, you need good fielders. So each of the players has to be very good at what they do, but they also need to work well with each other. So some can multitask. Maybe you have all rounders, but not all players need to multitask. Some need to be specialists. You get a good team only when you bring together all these different players, their skills, all these different elements. So that is what I think of university education as well. Universities are no longer places where you need to go for access to information. I think that is very easily available these days. In fact, maybe it doesn't even matter which professor is teaching which course. The professor's knowledge in that subject may not be very important to the student. Maybe they care more about how the grading would be done, what kind of exams they can expect, how much they may be made to work. These are the kind of questions that I see these days. It will be very interesting how university education may evolve in the coming years. I think universities are good institutes. They can become bases where all three elements of knowledge can come together: teaching, research, and entrepreneurship. And instead of trying to imagine ourselves as jugglers and feeling the pressure of keeping all these balls up in the air, it is maybe more productive to see ourselves as conductors of an orchestra. Maybe each one of us also need not be a conductor. Maybe we can play one instrument very well and carry a solo performance all by ourselves. Nevertheless, we have a lot of responsibilities, so we should attend to all of them without hyper focusing on just one alone. And each task that we have to do, each of the roles that we have to play, we should look at them as instruments contributing to some form of larger symphony. And when you bring them into harmony, these roles will do more than just coexist. They'll not want to compete for the listener's attention, but they will come together and elevate each other. And in that process, maybe you can create something much bigger than each component could be individually. So let me stop here and leave you with this thought. Please think about it. How do you think university education will evolve? What do you think is its purpose? I am Siddharth Talur. and this is Thinking in Love.